All right, let's get started with the study guide. First question, we have 3 and, let's go with purple today, 3 and 2/5. I like to change this to an improper fraction. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2, so that's 17 over 5, which is 17 divided by 5. So 5 goes into 17 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. Remainder is 2. Bring down to 0. Now we're beyond the decimal point. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. No more remainder. The answer is 3.4. Now, you may have noticed that this is 3 and 2/5, which is the same as 3 and 10. Sorry, 4 over 10, which is 3 and 4/10. 2/9 is equal to 2 divided by 9. So we start here. 9 goes into 2, 0 times. 9 goes into 20, 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18. Remainder is 2. Bring down a 0. 9 goes into 20, 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18. You might be noticing something. That 2 is going to start repeating forever. Take a look. Bring down the 0. 9 goes into 20 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18. So the 2 repeats forever. Sorry, this is a remainder 2. So the correct answer to this is 0.2 with a vinculum over the 2. That's the correct answer. Let's go to number 3. 7 over 4 is equal to 7 divided by 4. All right, how many times 4 go into 7? 1 time. 1 times 4 is 4. Remainder is 3. Bring down my 0. 4 goes into 30. 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Remainder is 2. Bring down another 0. 4 goes into 20. 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. The remainder is 0, so the answer is 1.75. This is another one that if you recognize that this is 1 and 3/4, well, 3/4 is 0.75 as a decimal, so 1.75. Next problem, we have to write this as a decimal also, so 42 over 5. So 42 divided by 5. Let's put our decimal point there because we're going to need it. 5 goes into 42. 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Remainder is 2. Bring down my 0. Now I'm beyond the decimal point. 5 goes into 20. 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. No more remainder. The answer is 8.4. Now, you might recognize also that 5 goes into 42 8 times with a remainder of 2 over 5. Well, 2/5 is also equal to 4/10. 8 and 4/10. 8 and 4/10. Number 5, you're asked to write this as a as a fraction, whether proper or improper. 0.6 repeated. This is one of these that you need to memorize, that 1/3 is equal to 0.3 repeated. 2/3 is equal to 0.6 repeated. So it means the answer to this question is 2/3. Now I'm just going to mention it because it's good to know. 1/9 is equal to 0.1 repeated. 2/9, which is a question earlier, is 0.2 repeated. 3/9, right, which is equal to 1/3, is equal to 0.3 repeated. All right, so these are good to know also. The ninths, 1/9 is 0.1, 2/9 is 0.2, 3/9 is 0.3. But you're definitely expected to know that 1/3 as a decimal is 0.3 repeated and 2/3 is 0.6 repeated. So that's kind of a little thing we expect you to know. They're called benchmark fractions. All right, this one as a fraction, well, this is 2 in the tenths place, so 2 over 10, but you need to write it in simplest form. 2 goes into the numerator and denominator, 2 goes into itself once, 2 goes into 10 5 times, So 2/10 is equal to 1/5. Next, a little stray mark there. All right, 1.28 is equal to 1 and 28 over 100, which if you recognize 7 goes into both 4 goes into both 28 and 100, so this is 1 and 7 over 25, which is equal to, because you need to write this as a improper or proper fraction, no mixed numbers, this is equal to 1 times 25 is 25, plus 7 is 32 over 25. Next, 0.502. Well, that's 3 decimal places beyond the decimal point, so it's 502 over 1. This is 10th, 100th, 1000th. A little trick. 1, 2, 3 zeros. So 1, 2, 3 zeros. So 502 over 1,000. If I divide both the numerator and denominator by 2, I get 251 over 500. That's our answer to number 8. Number 9, moving along. Number 9. Okay, we have to write the answer as a decimal. So I'm going to convert these to decimals. 1/2, hopefully you know, is 0.50. 60% is negative 0.60. I'm going out 2 decimal places because I see that this one is out 2 decimal places. Plus 1.25. So I have 0.50 and negative 0.60 and 1.25. So if I go left to right, 0.50 and negative 0.60. Well, I have more negatives than positives, so this is negative 0.10. Now I have a negative and a positive here, but I have more positives than negatives, so I do the difference between these two. So 1.25 minus 0.10 is 1.15, and I have more positives than negatives, so the answer is 1.15. Moving on to number 10. Write your answer as a simplified fraction. Okay, so negative 2/5 is negative 2 over 5. Minus 30% is negative 3 over 10. It's actually negative 30 over 100, but I'm going to simplify it because I can. Minus 75 hundredths is 75 over 100, but I'm going to simplify that to negative 3 over 4. My common denominator for 5, 10, and 4 is 20. So I'm going to do something over 20 minus something else over 20 minus something else over 20. So times 4, so this becomes negative 2 times 4 is 8/20. This is times 2, so 3 times 2 is 6. This is times 5, so 3 times 5 is 15. All I'm doing from here to here is making an equivalent fraction up and down. Negative 2/5 is negative 8/20. Negative 3/10 is negative 6/20. Negative 3/4 is negative 15/20. So these actually, if I put my little commas in, are negative 8, negative 6, and negative 15. So together, that's 14 negatives and 15 negatives is 29 negatives. So it's negative 29 over my denominator doesn't get added. It just stays the same. Negative 29 over 20. Moving on to number 11. Write the answer as a percent. All right, so this is negative 1 3/4, which is negative 175%. Plus 40%, plus, if you remember this little trick, I'm going to go different color, D to P. To turn a decimal to a percent, you move 2 places to the right, percent to a decimal, you move 2 places to the left. So I got to go from a decimal to a percent, so this is 2 places to the right. So this is, go back to red, plus 205%. So I'm going to do what's negative 175 and positive 40. Well, I have more negatives than positives. That's negative 135% plus 205%. So let's think about this. I have more positives than negatives. I have more positives than negatives, so that's the difference between 205 and 135 is 70%. And my wife's calling me, so I'm going to answer the phone. No, I'm not going to answer the phone. I'm going to send her a quick text. I am making a video. There you go. So there you go. See, real life happens. 205% minus 135% is 70%. Sorry about that, folks. All right, this is an answer of your choosing. I'm going to do fraction first and then talk about the other two. So this is negative 3 over 20 minus 55 over 100 plus 1 and 25 hundredths, or 1 and 1/4. Let's do that. So this is negative 3 over 20 plus 55 over 100 plus 5 over 4. Now, it's a little unusual because I have a number here. I actually know that the best common denominator, not the least, not the greatest, well, you never use the greatest common. Best denominator to use for all three of these is 20, because 5 goes into 100 20 times. So this is going to be negative 3 over 20 plus, divide these both by 5, 11 over 20 plus, 20 is a common denominator here, times 5, so that's 25 over 20. So my numerator is going to be negative 3 plus 11 is 8. 8 plus 25 is, wait a minute, I found a mistake. This is a negative. This is a negative. So negative 3 and negative 11 is negative 14. Negative 14 plus 25 is 11 over 20. 11 over 20. Now, as a decimal, negative 3 over 20. I'm running a little short on time here. There's a 15-minute limit to video, so I'm going to have to make 2. This is negative 0.15. All right, 3 divided by 20 gives you negative 0.15 minus 0.55 plus 1.25. So if I add negative 0.15 and negative 0.55, that's negative 0.70 plus 1.25. Well, what do I have more of? More positives than negatives. How many more? 0.55. And if you think about it, 11 over 20 is equal to 55 over 100, right? So the answer is positive 55 over 100, which, by the way, if you have this, you'll see that the correct answer is also 55%. Any of these are acceptable. Stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to do questions 13 through 20.